Greetings, fellow tarot travelers, tripping through the tetrahedral triptych of cards I shall lay before you. I'm Tarot Torch. And did you know that on Saturday, February 9th, a large meteorite struck Venezuela? It was visible in Valencia, Victoria, and Caracas, and in the states of Guarico and Aragua. The meteor hit at 7:35 p.m. local time. The meteorite ignited many fires in various areas before falling in Valencia and Córdoba. The similar meteorites are reported to have hit Cuba and Mexico as well. A meteorite fell on Cuba February 2nd, 1 week earlier than the Venezuelan meteor strike, first falling apart and then striking multiple areas throughout almost all municipalities in the province of Pinar al Rio. All three countries struck by meteors are refusing to accept Juan Guaido as the president of Venezuela, leading many to speculate if these meteorites were naturally occurring or a man-made phenomenon. Some say this is an ominous sign, claiming that such natural phenomenon frequently occurs as harbingers of coming destructive wars. Others say it is just a coincidence and of no political nor worldly significance. Mike Pompeo has made an interesting recent comment that Hezbollah has set up terrorist cells in Venezuela. Venezuela has good relations with Iran, but many wonder if it is true or simply another attempt to convince the American people that war and invasion is necessary. After all, in the Iraq invasion, the now known false myths of aluminum tubes serving as weapons of mass destruction were released. The Russians and the Chinese may not consider backing Maduro a very skillful move. Syria, which has had a far more serious political and military crisis than Venezuela, never caused hyperinflation to its own economy. Venezuela holds the world's biggest oil reserves and vast gold reserves, but evidently Maduro is not especially competent at running an economy. Maduro's old-school banana republic, kleptocratic and incompetent tyranny of personalities may have finally caught up with him, as it always does with such petty dictators. His fait accompli was trying to trade oil in Chinese yuan. Not trading in US petrodollars was Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein's final straw, leading to invasion. The problem isn't the removal of Maduro in the eyes of the US, who manufactured and is backing this very public coup. Although this coup d'etat is implicitly contrary to the Venezuelan constitution and, if evidence were submitted, it would show to be contrary to UN mandates and international law. Rather, the problem is with the method of Guaido's ascent. All Venezuelans will hold the national memory for generations that they had to suffer the embarrassment of American intervention because they could not solve their own problems and purge either the US with Guaido or Maduro themselves. Also, it ruins Venezuela's newly founded faith in communistic socialism, which, as always with communist socialism, is implemented with good intentions to only fail miserably, falling into kleptocracy, totalitarianism, centralized authoritarianism, cruelty, and cults of personalities. The same is true for all implemented European economic systems such as fascism, mercantilism, capitalism, communism, and socialism, but the fall towards inhumanity is much, much faster with communism and fascism, with theocratic mercantilism running a close third. So now, the world is talking about how to conduct a peaceful transference of power. American gringoism, carpetbagging, and imperialism are not welcomed by the people of Venezuela, and they do not want to lose their oil rights to American corporations, but That is the grand design. The greatest fear is that Guaido may be as bad or worse than Brazil's neo-fascist, newly elected President Bolsonaro, who is a dear friend of White House Republicans. Bolsonaro is anti-poor, anti-black, anti-gay, and anti-left, and is complaining endlessly that Pinochet, the Perons, and other South American dictators never executed enough people. Guaido was a known member of the Popular Will Party, which has been accused of decapitations and human immolations. Will Guaido, if seizing power, initiate new elections or simply reign as the newest dictator of Venezuela? Will a post-conflict Venezuela leave Guaido with many choices? Will the gold be stolen? Will America build bases in Venezuela if Guaido takes power? Will Guaido seize power, or will he be assassinated or executed? Will Guaido be better or worse than Maduro? Will the Venezuelan people return from foreign countries where they are seeking refuge, or when Guaido seizes power? Will Guaido privatize currently nationalized Venezuelan oil interests and then give them away to the US and the EU? Will Guaido initiate a reign of terror? Well, those are big questions, especially the last one. And it is a big question many people are asking. And as in Venezuela topics that I've covered before, Venezuela 1 and 2, we are going to use the Fournier Naipe Poker Español. Now this is a Baraja deck that is the traditional deck of Central South America. And it is a poker deck, so it's identical to an American deck in terms of the number of cards. A normal Baraja deck only goes to 9. And so the interpretations for tarot are different. But this deck can be used with a Rider-Waite-Smith, a Thoth, or a Marseille Tarot interpretation. And so first we are going to shuffle the cards a bit here. And cut the cards and find out what the heck is going on with Guaido. Is he going to be a good man, or is he going to be an evil man? And what are the intentions with America and the EU and Russia and China and everybody else? The first card is the Five of Coins. Now the Five of Coins is disruption in the Marseille Tarot, and in the Rider-Waite-Smith system, disruption still has its own little application where we see poverty as the issue. You know, I think both apply to Venezuela. The poverty being experienced in that country now is unbelievable. People standing in line for hours, almost all day long, just to buy a roll of paper towels. They say it's worse than Russia was during communism. But the disruption is the presence of Guaido. And the disruption is the fact that America wants to get involved. The disruption is that the economy may go through a cataclysmic change and literally reprint new monetary system altogether with different types of dollars. The next card is the Six of Swords. Now, the Six of Swords has a lot to do with processing information, but I think in this case, it has to do with knowledge, technology, military ability, assessing the situation. I think that would be a very good way of describing it in our current reading. And the next card is the Two of Swords. Now, the Two of Swords is a very interesting card, and it has many interpretations. In the Marseille Tarot, it is the card of boundaries. But once again, this is not a proper Marseille deck. This is a Baraja deck. And so the interpretations we can draw from it also extend into the Rider-Waite-Smith system and the Thoth system. And my opinion is that the knowledge, the scientific knowledge, the technology knowledge that is being garnered right now as all sides assess the situation, this is what's pivotal. Right now, Venezuela is being looked at by the economists in Europe, by the Chinese government, by the Russian government, who's owed a lot of money, by the United Nations, by the United States, by Brazil, Mexico, and other countries surrounding Venezuela. It's on the press, and everybody wants to know what's going to happen. And what's happening is an assessment, information gathering, even to a lesser extent, spies getting information from not so good channels. And the poverty is such an important issue, but we can't solve the problem till we know what the problem is. But what we see here with the Two of Swords is two presidents. We see Guaido and we see Maduro. And they're both here facing in opposite directions, as they do. And so nothing at this point in time has been determined. It is not a time of action yet. People are spending their money to build up armories. They are information gathering, and they're monitoring the two candidates, and listening devices and satellite technology and facial recognition technology is all being employed as people try to figure out who's on what side and what are they going to do. So let's look at this outcome card of the two presidents. Certainly a decision can be made. And above we have enormous wealth, intergenerational wealth, the wealth of the government, the gold and the oil. And beneath it, the Eight of Swords, the card of, well, it is protecting the nation's wealth. It is a card to protect something precious. But in the Rider-Waite system, it's also holding it hostage. So what we have here is a situation where there are two presidents. And if you think that Maduro is holding the nation's economy and people hostage, and that he has got all the money, well, guess what Guaido is and is doing? He got the money from America, and he got a lot of money from trade deals and other things from countries that recognize him as the president, and he's holding it hostage. Both are doing the same thing. I think that's what the cards are telling us, is that currently there's no difference between Maduro and Guaido. They're both after the money. They both are playing hostage games. And my guess is they're both information gathering, and they're both concerned about the poverty, and they're both willing to disrupt the status quo. And in terms of militarism, we have three sword cards, and sword cards are the most militant and the most frightening of the deck. But I don't see here an activation card for war. I don't see the Tower. I don't see a king. I don't see a knight. I don't see the Chariot. I don't see cards that bring people to war. What I'm seeing here instead is both Maduro's group and Guaido's group are thieving, lying, cheating, stealing, holding hostage, spying, information gathering, and causing social disruptions. I don't know how to tell you, but I think small-minded people are now dealing with very big troubles.